as I said, so just welcome everybody to the Irish Coffee Hour. So we're going to really open the floor up, and one of the things that we kind of did, and the reason Mike and Brian have kind of been sponsors of this the whole thing is because, in the first couple weeks of everything going on, we really focused on how to adapt. Right. And one of the things that we really wanted to do was, there was a huge opportunity to try to work together and keep everybody together. So we came up with this concept of, hey, let's just do these Zoom rooms and just kind of do these happy hours and just kind of keep everybody rocking. And then, the three of us kind of worked that within. I mean, we were at Brian's event on the 11th. We all laughed when they shut the NBA down, and we were like, this is ridiculous. We were all at Topgolf, and then on the 16th, everything shut down. And then I would say by that following week, the week of like the 22nd, we had a digital blueprint kind of already situated, and we had a lot of people in. So I kind of want to just open the floor up to kind of see kind of what people have done to kind of adapt, what you've seen that's worked. And I know Janet's on here too from the chamber, and I know there's a lot of people that have been kind of utilizing their networks to adapt. So I'm going to open the floor up if anybody wants to partake. So, and you can just unmute yourself if you want. All right. So nobody has done anything. That's fantastic. So,
hey, Ryan,
yeah, go ahead.
We'll jump in really quick because I actually don't have a lot of time. I want to say good morning to everyone. Absolutely great to see you all. And this is Ricky Taylor. I met Ryan, many moons ago, connected with him and Justin. But if we're talking about, what we've been doing, throughout this pandemic, for me, complete 180 from running up and down the East Coast, traveling and, meeting with different clients to literally sitting here in my Michigan hoodie with my funky fresh background and using that as like a talking point. So the one key thing that I would say, if we're going to continue to do this, things like investing in a good camera, investing in a microphone, investing in a green screen so that, you can have quote unquote a decent, almost professional looking background or situation, and just, keeping it clear. The other thing that I've been doing is just trying to stay connected by email and lighthearted phone calls. All right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not calling you to get a deal done. I'm calling to say hello. I was thinking about you, just wanted to make sure you're okay. All right. And I'm finding that is going a much further way than just picking up the phone. Hey, what kind of deal do you have today for me? Things like that.
Yeah.
And I would say the last thing that I started doing, I don't know, some of you know that I cook, some of you don't. I started doing virtual cooking classes, literally creating recipes or ingredient lists, sending them to my contacts and doing it via Zoom, just like this. And it's been really, really successful. So if you have somebody that you can connect with, or maybe you're doing it yourself, that could be another way to, engage with your base.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Good.
Hey, Ryan. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Ricky, to go off on what you had talked about. I read this really interesting article last night, and they're talking about, God willing, we're going to get back to in-person in the not too distant future. But the Zoom event component for if you're an event planner is here to stay. So you're going to Ricky's point, you're going to have to need to up your game in terms of your video technology and things like that to be able to offer that type of component, that virtual attendance at conferences, trade shows, those kind of things. That's going to stay. So if that's here to stay, you've got to offer those virtual people that a very similar upgraded experience, much like in person. So that's gonna mean you will have to invest in some of that technology to make that experience worthwhile. So I thought that was just an interesting point of view last night.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is like I think the mics are pretty cheap nowadays. What I found out that I've had success with is actually like the video game headsets. So the one I use is like $30. It's Turtle Beach, which is like excellent in the game world. And I sound pretty clear, and I didn't have to spend like $800 on like an actual mic. So it's super easy. And then what's nice is I've been doing a lot more phone calls too, kind of like Ricky was saying too. Like I think that is like been awesome because I don't know about you, but when I talk on the phone, my wife loves it because I pace all over the house, and it's just really nice just to kind of yak on the phone with somebody instead of being in front of the screen. People are a lot more accessible, and we've seen that too. Okay, Mike, do something.
I was just going to say I'm the same way. It's still. I mean, we've been doing this since what, March, and I'm still just not very comfortable sitting in front of the screen, just staring at it and having somebody stare back. I always rather be in front of somebody, always, no matter what. And I still am, because we've never shut down. We've always been essential. Print has been essential, but any customers that allow me to come in, I'm there anytime I can. But yeah, I'm the same way. I'm up on the phone. I'm walking around. I just need that emotion. I mean, emotion creates emotion kind of thing. So I agree. I tell you what, the only one thing we do a little bit differently in my group, because I haven't. I mean, I don't, like Rick, that's really cool that you came up with a great idea, the online cooking shows and virtual cooking shows. I have nothing special like that, but the only thing different we've done in my group B2B is just kind of focus on every member each week, one member each week, and just kind of do a highlight on them and how we can help them and drive connections or intros or opportunities. So really focusing on using relationships and partners to find opportunities right now, because you can't just go around knocking on doors. I actually tried it recently and it wasn't very welcome, but so I stopped right away.
Yeah, I think that's a great way, like the adaptation of understanding how can we utilize our networks in order to push more, opportunities for people, because, I think we all saw it in the beginning, like in that first month, there was like a squad of people that came out hardcore trying to sell everybody on everything. And it's like, dude, this is not the time to do this. Like I literally didn't start like talking about branding and things like that until like after the 4th of July. Because at that point it was like, all right, everyone's kind of understands what the virtual thing looks like now, but like all I was doing was, how can I help you? Who do you need to know? What's a good thing to go into? Like, and I think the other thing that people are saying that, Ashley knows this one too, is that I'm like, hey, who do you want to know? And they go, well, I am agnostic. I can work with any individual of any company of anyone, doesn't matter. And I'm like, that doesn't help me keep you top of mind. Right. So like for me, I've picked the same 3 or 4 things all the time. Right. I'm like food packaging and processing, anybody in specialized healthcare, anybody in esports. That's it. That's all I want. Everything else is great. If people hear like, buzzwords and things like that, I'll take that, rebrand or website or that stuff. But I'm not going to say that I can work with everybody. Has anyone else seen success in that world? What's the introduction game look like for people? Please.
So I'm just going to kind of see the difference between what has been done before and then everything that went nuts during the pandemic. The networking activity, like the actual tangible activity grew exponentially. So like, for example, if we were to go to an event, right? And we come back, we have these business cards, we follow up between 24 and 48 hours, and it's usually between 5 and 6 people on average, right? Maybe, right? And then you probably write in the back of the card some follow-up stuff, whatever it may be. Now, being a part of 2 to 3 or 4 networking groups every week, every month, whatever that may be, we're at our computer. So we're able to do double the amount of work because we're able to do it right from our computer. So what has happened, or what I've noticed, and please take this with a grain of salt, is that the networking activity has grown, seriously.
I've done probably 12 months worth of networking in 12 weeks.
Honestly. Right. So the challenge then from that is that not only do we get Zoom fatigue, but now we've set the standard to even higher than it was before. So the networking piece can also become a little bit of a deterrent, not because you're not doing the right thing, it just means things are going exponentially faster. So I think I caution people, as we build up the next 6 months with the vaccine coming, I personally think, and my theory is that it's going to be a hybrid mentality, right? You've got, like everyone was saying, it's going to be on-site and online. But I know a lot of people have gained a lot more experience with LinkedIn, be able to not only prospect, but also to network effectively. And there's no gatekeeper. So I think that the pandemic, yes, screwed a lot of people over, but it also, one, allowed us to slow down a little bit physically, and then mentally just catapulted us into the dumpster fire that is 2020. But I think it also showed us what we could be doing in addition to the in-person stuff, and that networking virtually can also be nurtured if it's done the right way.
Yeah,
So,
I think we went about 10 years in the future in 3 months, honestly, because this was all things that we were all ready to do and all knew about Zoom. But like if I invited somebody like in the end of 19 to be like, hey Jeff, what's going on? Do you want to grab a coffee or just want to jump on a quick Zoom call? You'd be like, coffee? Like, I don't want to go on a Zoom call with you. Like now it's like the opposite, which is crazy. And just a reminder for some people that jumped in late, this is an open discussion. So if you would like to get in the conversation, just raise your hand. I'll call on you. Jeff, floor is yours, sir.
Thanks, man. And I will always grab a coffee with you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So yeah, it's, there's certainly an element of Zoom fatigue that's been going on. But I feel like I'm accomplishing so much more as opposed to cutting that hour and a half, 2-hour drive on each side of going to an appointment and being able to expand the network and meet with people all over PA, all over Jersey, and all over the country, quite frankly. But for me, I think what's been most important is the upgrade in you guys, the upgrade in networking partners. Early in this pandemic, the folks that were, to your point, Ryan, the folks that were like super transactional and not relationship building and not looking to take care of the client, they were in full force, pushy. And then like May-ish, they just kind of fell off. And I haven't seen them on any Zoom calls since.
Nothing.
So the folks that are constantly showing up, constantly into that relationship building, the ones that are doing what they can to make those introductions for other people, even if nothing's coming to them, I think that this group are going to be the ones that come out of this thing so far ahead, because it comes back. So, I mean, that's everything from a bunch of you guys that have spoken already, to folks that may not be here this morning. But for me, I just feel good knowing that when I'm talking with a customer, that almost no matter what they need, there's someone that I can put them in touch with that
Absolutely.
I know is going to take care of them and not treat it transactionally.
Yeah, and I say it all the time, and I'm like, hey, if you can introduce me to someone, remember that introduction is not going to be being like, do you know that internet traffic is up over 300%, and together we can grow your, and I turn like in the Merrill Reese at some point because I'm selling so hard. Like it's like I'm here to help them grow as well. So, Brian, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with everything that you guys just said. The hard selling came out, and I was getting bombarded in the beginning of this. And then what happened was our schools, who were averse to technology improvement, right? It's a Catholic organization, so we're about 200 years behind the times. They discovered how to video chat, and we were having dozens of Zoom, Google Chat calls a week, and I just got burnt out. I shut it down, and I've slowly reintegrated myself back into the groups and kind of been very selective about the groups that I'm going to Jeff's point about selecting people who are going to be partners going forward, because I think that's where it's at. Like, as you come out of this, hopefully in early 21, we'll be able to hit the ground running and make some concrete partnerships, because I agree with what Camisso said early. And that's you need to be able to, I don't like to look around this and see people and I know if you're on mute and your screen's black, you're doing something else, right? And you're just kind of listening, and that's cool. I want to be in the room and read the room and say, all right, this person's not interested in what I'm saying. I'm going to dip out and go find somebody else, or vice versa. Hopefully somebody would be able to look at me and go, well, he's just not paying attention to me, and be able to get out of there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I learned that I need human interaction. Yeah, Zoom is not the human interaction that I'm talking about.
And I think part of that too, Brian, is the fact that, I'm a seed planner, I always have been, right? A low and slow kind of mentality all the time. And the amount of growth that is going to come out of March and April of next year from, just kicking ass since this last 9 months, I think is going to be awesome for everybody. I think we've all planted so many seeds, and they're all just going to start growing. And before you know it, you're going to be like, zucchini? What? Watermelon? I don't remember doing blueberry bushes. I think it's all coming. So we'll go Greg and then Eric. So Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to agree with a bunch of that. I have a couple points, but the first one is it feels like most of the calls that I'm on these days when I'm connecting with somebody, the overriding theme is I just want to connect with good people. It's not a matter of trying to find somebody to help you with your business. It's just, are you talking about stuff other than business when you talk? Are you connecting with people, understanding who you might actually want to do business with in the future, and then eventually getting to the point of, okay, how can I help that person, or how can they help your current clients? But really just making sure that you're connecting with good people who, you know, have the idea of just helping others more than anything. One thing I'm a little different than everybody else in that I was never a networker before this happened. It was never part of what I had to do. And so this has been a very tough time for me. Zoom was actually incredibly helpful in that, as we discussed, you know, I can do 15 of these a week rather than showing up at a Chamber of Commerce meeting or some other networking event where I don't know a single person there. And I'm not necessarily the type of person who's comfortable just walking up to random people and trying to do that. Whereas this has made it so much easier. And I spent probably the first 6 months just meeting people. And now I'm probably to the point where a lot of other people in this group, where you guys have been talking about, which is, you know, now I've built a network of people, most of the people in here that I'm comfortable with. And it's no longer about, you know, trying to build my own network. Now it's more a matter of trying to help other people.
Yeah, it's great. And I think that's really the key is like, you know, going into these meetings when like Greg's like, hey, I want to introduce you to Steve. And I'm like, all right. And then going in and it's just like, you're 15 minutes in the conversation, you go, hey, I got a hard stop in 15 minutes. We should probably talk about what each other do. And that's the stuff that I look forward to the most because, you know, and it's going back to what Ricky said earlier, like, you know, I don't know if you know Bill Evans. Bill Evans is a great guy. If you don't know Bill, let me know. I can introduce you to Bill. But Bill made a great comment a couple months ago saying he's been working the detective view like in June and July, and people are purposely creating the sets that are behind them, right? You know, like, so it's like, see what everyone's got going on in the background, either as a virtual background or their actual setup, and utilize that to kind of start the conversation going. Like, and it really does work. It's really awesome. So, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, my business has definitely changed. I get a lot of fallout from bankers. And in the banking world, if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So you really got to see them. So I was figuring out, you know, the Zoom, it's a great way to build a one-on-one with somebody because you get 30 people on a call, find out who you want to talk to, and you don't talk about business like everybody said. You build a relationship. So I think Zoom has helped really build that relationship. And as far as referring business, I do a lot of introductory emails, so I just keep myself out of it. I say, Ryan, I think you should meet Mike. I think you guys would do wonderful together. Here you go. And you leave yourself out of it. And it comes back to you tenfold down the road. So I think that's very important to understand that. And I think one thing, I'm on Zoom with a lot of different people at right time. And you know, if you're on the same people on the Zoom calls, you know the ones you don't want to deal with. And you know the ones you do. Ones that are selling, you don't want to deal with. So that's what Zoom's helped a little bit, is kind of weed out the people you don't want to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And, you know, one of the things I always love to do is, you know, I'm not here to sell your business when I'm making introductions because I don't know. I mean, I know what you do, but you're in the weeds. I'm not. So I'm not going to like sit here and type up this whole thing. My intros, and people have gotten my intros and they've probably gotten multiple and see that it's literally the same thing pretty much every time. But it's just like, Brian, meet Eric. Eric is a great networker and someone you need to know. Eric, meet Brian. Brian kicks ass and he's always looking to meet new people. Have a nice day. Goodbye. And I just leave and that's it. And it's like, let you guys do your thing. Like, have fun. So, all right, let's go to Heather and then Sage. Welcome back, Sage. Right? We'll talk about where you're at when it's your turn. So Heather, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, y'all. I hope you can hear me. I do need to upgrade and get a microphone. But I love what you're saying. And I totally agree. I think just like you just said, Ryan, all my intros are pretty much, I don't believe in, it's not about selling. It's about, I've always been about building relationships, getting to know people. I can't even tell you how many intro calls I've had over the last 6 months that, like you said, I think, you know, we're just talking about life and how we're dealing in the pandemic. And especially if we have kids and that a lot of times we don't even get to business. So we wind up making another call. I think Maria, you and I actually were once, good to see you over there. We had a call like that earlier in the year. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what it's about. It's about building relationships, getting to know people. People do business with people who they like and trust. So that's what this pandemic has done for me is really introduced me to amazing people, helped me feel more human in a very kind of crazy time, and probably been more supporting from a personal standpoint than maybe even professionally. But I know the relationships I've built will eventually turn into other opportunities as well.
Great. Yep. All right, Sage. Welcome
Can you guys
back.
hear me?
Yeah. Are you
Okay,
still in Canada? Are you back in the US? Where are you at these days?
I'm still in the Arctic tundra of Canada.
Oh my God.
It's yesterday it was, I think, just below 0 Fahrenheit. So it's nice and cold here now. But the snow is nice for Christmas. But I wanted to say, Ryan, thanks for calling it, like, just being so blunt about it. Like, I'm not here to sell your business, because sometimes I make these intros. I'm like, oh, I talked like to Jeff. Jeff has been a rock star with intros. I appreciate that, Jeff. But like, sometimes I comprehend what you do, but I'm like, I don't fully know what you do. So if I introduce someone to someone, I'm sorry if I don't want to butcher it. It's just not worth it. But what I was going to say is, it's kind of the elephant in the room. I've stopped talking about COVID. It's so depressing, and that might just be a preference or an opinion, but like, I'm so effing sick about this, like, and the whole environment of it. And I think it causes a bit of negative energy. And obviously, like, I'm putting this out there, it is an opinion, it is a preference, but like, I'm talking about anything but that, because there's so many other good things going on in life besides COVID. And I think that's kind of something I don't bring up anymore, unless it happens to be a part of the conversation. But even that, I try to avoid it.
Same here.
That's just, I don't know why I just said that. It was just super random, but I try not to.
I don't think anybody wants to have the conversation. Everyone's aware of what's going on, you know, and I think the one thing that I've learned a lot is that people really love to swear on Zoom calls. And it's really funny to like watch everybody start going nuts. So like I always do and I'm going to swear here, so if I offend you, time to jump on the call, but I start with the ass shit fuck, and that's where I go. So I drop one of those, and if I say one, then the other one comes out. And then usually once I get to a shit that I get in there, then the F-bombs just start flying. And once someone drops an F-bomb, it's over. Like, the conversation is great and people feel so relaxed. It's actually really, really crazy how much people love to just kind of be like, oh yeah, actually we can do this because I'm in my house. We're not in the middle of like Jersey Java in the middle of Haddonfield. We can actually like have a crazy like swear conversation. So it's pretty damn fun.
Until you get kicked out of a couple meetings.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, we
okay,
did.
That happened twice to me. They're like, we don't really approve of this. I'm like, okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. So yeah, until you get kicked out, that's when it's okay.
Yeah, don't have a meeting with James Corbett either, because James will just let it fly, baby, all day.
Try that in a Catholic Partnership School Zoom. It goes over well.
Yeah.
You would be surprised.
You know, it's fun too. So I would say, like, the one thing too I've seen a lot is and Ricky, I'm coming back to Ricky. Ricky made some great points at the beginning. I took some notes as he was talking. So, you know, one of the nice things is the time element, right? Time has really like changed immensely. I find myself doing more during the day. In the very beginning, I was like getting really crazy. I was working a lot more because the way that I used to do things was, I'm on the road all day. I'm doing 20, 25 events. And then like, I'm like, oh, I have 100+ emails. I'm going to spend 3 hours at either a Starbucks or the Wegmans upstairs. And I'm going to pick a day during the week. I'm just going to bang out all these emails. And here we are now. And I'm done. And then I'm back to what I was doing. And I have my cards and I'm sending emails to follow up people I met. And now it's like, I have more emails in my inbox and doing email less time. And it's, I don't know. Has anybody else's like email response rate gone down, like slower, even though we're in front of the computer more?
Yes.
It's craziness. Janet, you're saying no. Are you on it, Janet?
I mean,
yes.
I have to be. You know, you have to be responsive to your clients and your members and your contacts. This is how you keep your contacts over a period of 15 years, you know, or 20 years.
Yeah, I would agree with Janet.
Pay attention to it, because when you're, a lot of times if you're ignoring, or it seems like you're ignoring, you know, that's the impression it leaves. And
yeah, I hear that.
For all our talk about relationships today, they exist in your email inbox as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much of the ignoring factor as it's like phone call, Zoom call, networking group, Zoom call, phone call. Oh, it's 4:30. I'm done. I'm spent.
Yeah, but know that perception of not returning an email is that he's ignoring me or she's ignoring me.
I think there might be a balance though, Janet, I think between like boundaries, right? So like if you're used to answering, emails after a certain time and that client expects it, then yes, but I feel like, and please correct me if I'm wrong in this, but if you feel differently, but I feel like that, I don't know, I've learned more about boundaries as far as response rates because I'm usually available to my clients 24/7, but I'm not answering at 8 o'clock at night. You're going to wait until, the
Agreed.
next morning.
Yeah.
Totally
right?
agreed. Yeah, especially when you're in your own business, which I was in for 15 years.
Yeah.
After 8 o'clock, you don't want to be a slave to that.
Right.
Some of those clients, they'll hound you all night long, and then quite honestly, you're putting in more time than the contract is worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's that business component to it as well. And at the same time, I used to do it in my scoping a project. When I scope the project, I'm available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever. So now the client knows when they can get a hold of you. That's an important point. After hours is a whole other kettle of fish.
Let's go Jim Turbin, then we'll go Ricky.
Yeah, I would agree with Janet. I think, but part of it's a prioritization, right? So it's really, if you look at it, clients first, right? Or maybe even prospects that you're in the position of closing. Then it's all those relationship things. Like, a lot of times I'm in financial services. So a lot of my older clients are, sick and tired of this and they want some interaction. And, my biggest fear is giving it to them, less, me getting it. But, a lot of the introductions or a lot of the networking stuff for me tends to fall after hours, right? Either before 9 o'clock or after 6 o'clock. And I just kind of set that priority with people of, hey, listen, clients have to come first. And then, not that this relationship's not important to me. It's just, I got to take care of my clients first. And I would, I would respect that same from your end, if you can't get back to me right away.
Great. Yeah, Rick, you're on mute.
Yeah, I would say, echoing what Janet mentioned, number one, I think the world understands there's a 24-hour clock on response time. That's the first thing. The second thing, I'll tell you, I've gotten more positive responses from my clients when I do get back to them, typically within 30 minutes to an hour, if I have the time, okay? As opposed to literally putting them off saying, all right, you know what? I'm busy. I know you're busy. I'm going to get back to you in 6 to 8 hours or something like that. And it's something that honestly, I take with great pride because we are in the service-oriented business. And if you're not servicing your clients, somebody else is going to service them for you. So I don't really go with the idea of pushing people off. Boundaries, absolutely. But if you're sitting here and you can get something done for your client, it's going to go a much further way than not. That's my opinion.
And to add to that is, maybe if you're swamped like we all are, maybe that person reaches out to you and say, hey, I'm swamped. Can I get back to you at 5 o'clock or 4:30? Then the person knows, okay, they're busy, but you don't have to give a War and Peace response to every email. You can just say, hey, listen, my schedule is tight. Can I get back to you at 2:30 or something like that? So I've done that. People like that.
Yeah, I think part of it too is like, just from my perspective, is like, we've had and like on the culture side of things, like we've had mandatory 8:30 meetings every day, right? And it's great. It helps us stay like aware of what everybody's doing. But like, I'm up at like 10 of 8 and then like ready to go and then get coffee. And then maybe I'm in front of the computer for like 10 minutes. Like for me, like if I can get my ass out of bed, which means go to bed earlier, right? And get up and have that hour of like nothing on the schedule and just run through emails. And I've done that a couple of times and it does help out, but it's just, the days and nights are long too. But go ahead, Sarah.
Unmute myself would help. I was just going to say it's so important to just manage the expectations. And Ashley, you mentioned that too. And Janet, you know, when you're sending out those emails to people saying, this is when I'm going to get back to you, I think expectations are just huge. If you tell me and you start to act as if I'm going to hear back from you in an hour, then I start to expect that. And then when you don't, it becomes a problem. So I really, you know, encourage people to just be honest about the expectations. Responding to an email tomorrow is fine, but it's not fine if they thought they were going to hear back from you within 30 minutes. So those expectations are just critical with clients, coworkers, your boss, whatever it is.
Very true, Sarah. Very true. What I do, if I set that, I set my, you know, I got Alexa, where is she? There she is. She's listening to my every word. I say, Alexa, you know, well, she's going to, you know, and I say, send me a reminder. And then I tell her what I need to do. And she reminds me to call that person back. But you're absolutely right. You know, not meeting expectations is worse.
Yeah. And people are usually really respectful of that. Oh, you said tomorrow? That's fine. You know, for the most part. So.
Yeah. I see Tim Jennings is unmuted. Yeah. Tim, would you like to respond to any of this?
Well, Janet, I imagine that Alexa is probably already listening to all your conversations, and she's probably already calling all your contacts for you anyway, or sending them emails that you don't even know about. But that's besides the point. I don't know. I guess I try to get back to people as soon as possible. I'm finding that as this thing kind of wears on, I've been on a less Zoom calls, as you all may have noticed, but it's just been a product of being busy and a product of being, I guess, to be honest, being a little burnt out. You know, I mean, just from trying to do everything. I have a whole new respect for Janet, Stacy, Steve, anybody, Colleen, anybody who plans and runs events. I have a whole new respect for you guys because after Ryan and I just did the whole Woodbury thing, I have no idea how you could possibly put so much time into each event. It's amazing. So, you know, that took up so much of my time. So you're trying to do these things. You're trying to stay in touch with people, trying to stay in touch with your clients, and you're trying to be socially in touch like this and keep your relationships going. And it's really difficult. You know, I've probably missed a couple of emails, to Janet's point. I want to get back to people within 24 hours as well, because it's the world I live in, it's IT. So people expect you to get back to them literally within probably 15 minutes. I mean, it's not even an hour. So, and Ryan can probably speak to that as well. In my world, it's literally instant. They're either hitting me up on my cell or it's coming through in an email. And if you don't get back to them in 15, 20 minutes, they're going to call somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that's somebody else said the same thing. And I agree with you. Service your client or someone else will. And unfortunately, as a business owner, you do become kind of a slave to the client to a certain extent, as Janet said, and you want to try to limit that as much as possible. But at the same time, it's a slippery slope. You got to watch how much you limit and how much you, where you draw that line. And Ashley said the same thing, 8 o'clock at night. I think it depends on who the client is, where they are, and what kind of industry they're in or what business they're in, because their industry may be working at night and yours does not.
Yeah.
So if theirs is at night, they're going to be reaching out at night. So it's a mixed bag.
Good, Mike.
I was just going to jump in on Janet and I believe it was Sarah's talk a little bit about customer expectation and getting back to them. I learned at a very early in my career to never give a customer a time or a day that you're going to get back to them, because anything can happen between now and then. And God forbid you cannot meet that unless you have a scheduled appointment, obviously. But if you're saying, I'm going to get back to you in an hour, well, you have to rely on somebody else within your organization to get back to you with that information, then you're never going to get back to them in an hour because they're not dealing with the customer. Not to say that admin or whoever doesn't care, but their relationship doesn't depend on how you portray yourself in front of that customer. So whenever customers expect me to get back to them pretty quickly. I've just been doing that for the past 10 years in this business, and I don't mind, but at least I get back to them with, hey, I acknowledge that you reached out to me or you need some help, and I'm going to get on this right away and I will get back to you at some point or whatever. Just, I never really give them a time frame, but I let them know I see you're reaching out and you need help and I'm here to help. So I will take care of this.
That's good. I mean, and just to kind of talk about the time status, like, probably in the end of July, I blocked out like half my day Wednesday and every Friday all the way down to do a lot of that admin work, that it was just like, I'm doing too many calls. And then the other thing too is, and like, I think we've all been through this, like with boards and committees and all this, is that eventually it comes to a point where you just have to say no. And you're like, look, I want to jump on these calls. I want to do this, but I'm just not going to do it today. Like, I just can't. Like, I need to focus, and it's just a lot going on. I mean, I could do everybody's calls and be on everything. It's just, I can only do so much around the world of everybody introducing themselves and like a 25 and a half hour of like everybody talking. And like, sometimes you get lucky and it's just quick and to the point, but a lot of times it's like there's always those 2 or 3 people like or anywhere else that them just going on and on. So Jeff, you unmuted. You got something?
Yeah, actually, Jeff Colon with Holman Enterprises. For anyone that I haven't met, I see a lot of familiar faces here. A great book that actually speaks to what you were just talking about, Ryan. I read it over the summer. It's called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. If anybody needs a good reading material, but it talks a lot about what we're discussing right now, and it's just prioritizing. I felt like I was stretching myself a little thin as well, and joining calls. And like some of you, I manage a team, and I actually really had to redirect a lot of that focus and energy that I was doing to put into the team and make sure that I lift them up and be successful during the pandemic here. But essentialism talks a lot about what you're saying, Brian, like how to say no to certain things, how to really focus and write down and decide on what is truly a priority. And also, obviously, the success that you can have if you just put your effort into 1 or 2 really important things, as opposed to stretching yourself out into a million different things, especially in corporate America environment where everybody's so quick to say, hey, raise their hand for that next stretch assignment because it might make you look good or get you that next promotion. Really, the rest of your other work really starts off from when you're doing that. So if anybody needs a good book recommendation, Essentialism is a good one.
That's great. Thanks, Jeff. Go ahead, Sage.
Yeah.
Going back with what Camiso kind of said too, like it might be a personality thing, but I give people full permission. Like, hey, if I forgot you, just like send me an email, remind me. I don't feel bad about that. So I give people full permission and make them feel comfortable. Like, hey, you didn't get back to me. Like, what's going on? I mean, we're all busy people. It's going to happen once in a while. So I give people full permission to reach out to me if I forgot something.
Good.
I'm a human.
Yeah, right. It happens. I mean, things get lost in the email ether, and it tends to just, sometimes it happens. And I think people understand that too. So we got about 15 minutes. So I'm just going to kind of open this up to like, with all the stuff that we've been doing, and I think all the new ways that we've been kind of connecting and all the things that we've learned, like what's everybody looking forward to for next year? Like, I don't know where we're going to be at and what the situation is, but what are you looking forward to? And what's the next big things you think? Again, Mike.
I'm looking forward to things going back to as normal as possible. I'm talking to a lot of customers who are looking towards that for the future. When we're talking about office automation and their leases coming due and copiers and consolidating, a lot of customers are, from what I'm seeing, business owners are looking ahead. Like, I know we're in this situation right now, but we're all looking to come back to the office as much as possible. It's part of our culture. It helps build, teamwork and all that. There are going to be some that, will be working remotely, or, if your kid's sick or you have to stay home for whatever, now you can work remotely. That's great. So this did, I think, have a great outcome for long term for people who have to work at home, sometimes don't have to use days off, and business doesn't slow down. But I'm really looking forward to, and I'm also looking forward to working all day and networking after hours, because I think it was Jeff was talking about it, and Ryan, you mentioned it, and everybody really did. Just, there's not enough time in the day for all these one-on-ones, virtuals. I mean, if anybody knows me, I'm always networking, always out and about. And I was really hot to trot for a while when we first started this, but recently I do have a hard time telling people no, Ryan. You know that. I'm like, yeah, I'll go, whatever.
Same deal.
So I'm really looking forward to less virtual, more in-person networking, and things go back to more normal.
Yeah, Mike, I've missed the night networking, buddy.
Me too. I mean, there's something nice about the happy hours, and like I know Jersey Man's been doing some stuff here and there, but like, you know, it's cold. It's cold outside, and it's going to be hard to go do something in a parking lot somewhere, and you know that's really what it is too. Like, you know, I think Top Golf and all that, and I think like what you see more is that when there's a couple beers in that are being passed around, and it's after everyone's kind of clocked out from the day, like. It's just
everybody's guards down.
Yeah, it's been a great way
socialize and network properly.
Exactly. Like I want to know like how many kids you have, and when you met your wife, and how long you lived in the area, and you know what you did before, and you know not even talk about like, oh well, you know we can help you guys out because we do market. Like nobody wants that. Like I want to get to know people. So like when I see things that make sense, I don't know. I feel like that's the one thing that's kind of been missing. And I'm really looking forward to just trying to, you know, and that's what I'm like I'm trying to call everybody and just randomly touch people and just be like, hey, what's up? Like, what are you doing? What's going on? Let's just touch base and chat a little bit. So
Ryan,
I think your version of touching people is a little bit different.
I know.
Than
I
saw
people. Brian's face as soon as I said
I did too. I mean, you set yourself up for that. Come on, man.
That, buddy.
But I didn't say anything.
Virtually touching people.
Mm-hmm. And Camisso, I can attest that Top Golf gets cold. There are probably a bunch of people.
Oh my God!
Look, they got the 3 heaters.
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
As long as the wind doesn't come at you from the golf course, you're fine. Trust me. And
you weren't at the
degrees
polar vortex night.
All right. There's I'll say 25 degrees or less. 30. All right, freezing level and lower, then maybe, you know, you skip that day. We reschedule. It's no big deal.
All right, so let's bring everybody into the loop. So Brian did his golf outing, the first ever at Top Golf.
2 years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It was in January 29th or 30th. It was the night of the polar vortex. It was the coldest night in like 4 years. And it was
out of
-7 degrees or something like that. Like,
you know what though?
But people showed up.
You had like 100 and something people, and then I was like,
I'm having 108 golfers.
108, and then I started drinking Irish coffees, and then that was it. It was like, that's a great move because it's cold as shit outside right now.
Drinking trash can punch by the end of the night. You'll drink anything.
Yeah. Trash can punch, my favorite one. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great to see kind of like, you know, I think everybody's trying to go through. Anybody else like, have you seen anything, TJ? I see you're on music. Ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off what you said in terms of like getting the chance to know people a little bit better. I mean, you know, I've met so many people this year virtually who I really have not had the chance to see in person. Like I see Jeff Harris probably every single day, and he and I have never met in person. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to actually.
This is as good as it gets, my friend.
It all goes downhill from here, essentially. Yes, but no, I mean, I'm excited to build better relationships because I mean, you can only build a relationship so much online, in my opinion, before you actually get the chance to kind of see how people interact, like more in social places and stuff like that, where you're really only getting the chance to really see like people's facial expressions and how they react to different things. So, you know, I'm excited to, you know, create even better relationships with the people who I've met over this time in the months and years to come. But, you know, that all comes with, as Mike was saying, with the new normal, once we are able to get back to whatever, you know, does come out of this. But, you know, I'm grateful that I've been able to build the relationships here over quarantine to only just, you know, expand on those once we are able to get back into a normal capacity.
Yeah. All right. I got a couple lined up. So we'll go Meg, AJ, Tim, and then Brian.
I have to agree with what everyone is saying across the board about the digital networking, and we're all getting sick and tired of it. As someone who thrives off of being in a room with people and connecting with people one-on-one, this is hurting me. This is challenging to me. I don't feel like I'm connecting with everybody or anyone that I want to connect through with the computer in front of me. I am strategic when I network. I always like to look at the list to see who I could talk to or who I could introduce to. And being on a computer screen in this one-sided thing is just, it's challenging for me. So that's why I'm back at it. I'm jumping out of my comfort zone. That's where we all know we grow at. And this is my first time joining Ryan's event. So I'm excited to continue to put myself out there just in hopes of spring to be able to be together and feel each other's vibes and really just learn about who you are as a person. And same with me, tell you who I am as a person to see if we could work together to grow together.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing is like I'm a handshaker and a hugger, and that's been like the hardest thing for me is like not being able to, and then like seeing people and being like,
do you ask for consent, Ryan?
I do. I don't just like roll up on people.
Better.
I'm like, are you
Usually
hugging?
sneaks
Are
up
you
behind
handshaking?
them.
Yeah, surprise. Go ahead, AJ.
Ryan, I'll tell you right now, I definitely miss hugging you right now. So, and that's the thing is like, for me, having started my business about a year ago, and, the first year is all about networking, meeting people. This has been a great accelerator for that. I've met so many people. I think on this call, I probably booked like 4 or 5 meetings already. Why? Because I just want to get to know people. I want to get to know what they do. I want to get to know how they are. But ultimately, I need to get that human element in there too. Like people, I want to meet people. I want to get a feel for your energy. As Megan was saying, why? Because if I'm going to work with you, I need to know how we communicate, how we interact. I talk with my hands. Like this is like weird on camera for me to a point. So I am looking forward to getting back in person and seeing people in person and hugging Ryan every time I get a chance. But also, I think that this isn't going to go away because I also kind of enjoy the fact that I can wake up. I'm up at 5 a.m. by the way, Ryan, I'm up at 5 a.m. I bang out my P90X equal workout. Oof. And then I'm right to work. I get the kid to daycare, and then I can do this and meet some people. But I kind of would like some, mid-afternoon and night events where you go out, maybe have a beer, eat some food. I think, food is a very social thing that humans do. And it also is a place where trust is built because we're eating and we're doing something that all puts us on the same level. That's the kind of thing that I miss. So I don't know how soon into 2021 it's going to happen. I think we're all very excited, but I was on a call with, I'm a member of the Chemistry Council of New Jersey. We do a lot of things coordinating with the governor's office. The Department of Homeland Security for New Jersey representative was on there, and they're saying like, by the time this thing rolls out, these vaccines are not easy to administer. They have to be transported at like -40 or -70. You got to get 2 of them. They're actually saying you're probably looking at summer or Q3 before we may even be in a position where they won't require us to wear masks outside, like when we go into public areas. So it's here to stay for a little bit longer, but at least we've got a light at the end of this tunnel.
Cool. Thanks. All right, let's do Tim, then Brian, and then Ricky, and then we'll wrap it up. Get Tim.
Well, he kind of stole my thunder. I was going to mention how I missed your hugs too, man. And it's true. Having a drink with somebody, it's different. You talk about different stuff. I mean, you and I, we've had a couple of drinks now and then. We've had to get picked up.
Yeah, this is true.
This is true.
Because we're responsible.
You really do learn a lot. Well, we did the right thing.
It is.
But you do learn a lot of things you may have never have known, and you find out things that sometimes when you find out about people's backgrounds, it leads into more things that you could possibly be doing with them or helping them with. Yep. As far as their business goes, and because it's their livelihood, so it is their livelihood, and your livelihood, is your family. It all kind of intertwines. So I find it interesting that we can help each other, regardless of whether or not we're on a Zoom call, whether we're grabbing a cup of coffee, or whether we're grabbing a drink. I think they all are equally as important.
Nice. Brian, and then we'll go. Did we lose Ricky? I lost Ricky. So Ricky's here. So Brian, Ricky, Tyrone, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, Brian.
So I'm just going to echo what everyone else said. Especially being live and in person, my facial expressions, and I talk with my hand. I'm from South Philly. That's what I do, right? So Jeff Colon can relate to that for sure. That's how we interact, and that's how I can kind of get a feel. But there's a lot of positives that we've gotten out of this. Like from an organization, we've become more like I said in the beginning, savvy. We can start to have meetings virtually. We don't have to try and gather everyone from all these different places. When this whole thing started, we had a board meeting the first week of March. So right before COVID really took full effect. And we had someone Zoom into our call because a board member lives in Charleston, and people are like, Zoom, what's Zoom? And that was in March. Like they didn't know what Zoom was. And now, I mean, I don't even know how people can live with it, but coming out of this, we hope to be better and hopefully more efficient. Like we were a little bit clumsy getting started with this. And I think people are starting to get better with this. I know we were on a chamber call the other day, and sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around, like people can't figure out how to set backgrounds up and stuff like that. And that may be like Zoom 102, but like just the basics of getting onto this. My mom, 79 years old, I can now get her on a Zoom call. So I think that people are getting a little bit better at this type of stuff. And it's made me value my family and the things that and anyone that follows me on social media knows that I have a little lunatic in my house. So, it makes me value the time that I have with them. So.
Love it. All right, Ricky, go ahead.
Yeah, and before we take off, guys, it was great to see you all. I'm really excited about this. I know I haven't been in a while. I'll tell you the key things that I'm looking forward to. Number one, wearing cologne, okay? I miss wearing my colognes. I bought some really nice ones over the pandemic and putting on suits. I've been doing like a lot of these virtual interviews.
I agree. Can't wait to suit back up.
Exactly. You put the jacket on, the shirt, and I got shorts on underneath. And I'm like, remind myself not to stand up. But the thing that I am doing, I do squirt a little bit of cologne on, even though I'm sitting here in my virtual office. So I'm excited about that. I'm definitely excited about getting back to the interaction. So I'm glad to see everybody's here, and let's continue to move forward.
We can smell that over. We can smell your cologne there.
Thanks, Eric. All right, Tyrone, take us home, buddy.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. I just wanted to make a point that, a lot of people are saying get back to, and there's no proof that we're getting back to anything exactly the way we left it, just in terms of business landscapes. So, when we're looking at a trend, first, we want to ask, does it have substantial impact on business because it shapes what buyers value over time? So I think buyers' values are significantly different today, especially business to business. Second, you want to look at, or you want to recognize significant trends are irreversible. Once people shift, they don't go back. I do think this is a significant trend, which means there's going to be innovations moving forward that liken the environment or scenarios that you're most likely seeking with the in-person. So VR would be next. Third, trends have a clear trajectory, which also leads them to mass adoption, which then drives the trend even further. And so, I say all that to say, I think we have enough in terms of identifying that this is more than a trend. And, going back again may not be going back. I doubt we're going back in the same capacity, especially with the same expectations. So I think it's more of an opportunity and more interesting to look forward at what's coming next, because Zoom isn't new. However, it's new to many people, which means there's been a lot of time for an innovation or something coming around that is greater than Zoom, and with many opportunities and again, virtual reality and the like. So I think, the old school is done. I think 2020 has sped us up to the point where I just don't know how realistic it is to believe that we're going to go back to, let's just say, 2018 way of doing business, 2019 way of doing business.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think part of it too is understanding that it's all about the adaptation of what we're going to do, right? What's the innovation look like from the trends that have been kind of now become the new way that people are doing things? I mean, what's exciting is to see the businesses that are going to be coming out of people kind of innovating, right? So like in 08, if you never had a chance, go look at the 08, 09, startups that happened with Uber and Airbnb and Groupon and tons of other things. So I think we're going to see a lot of that coming out. And I think because of the environment that we're in, you're going to see people transitioning and they're going to be adapting extremely. And now with technology, even if you look back 5 years ago, tech is so insane now, and the amount of info that can be pumped out, it's so much easier to do things. And in these virtual environments, like it's going to be interesting. And I mean, I think it's like little things, and we'll end it on this. Like, when I have the chat out, like I should have a separate notification that says private chat came in, just little things like that. And I think those little adaptations are going to lead to bigger and better things. So it's going to be very interesting. But we're about an hour, so I'm going to wrap it up. So this was great. Thanks everybody for joining us. Have a very safe and happy holidays, good new year. And I will probably be calling you this week because my goal is to touch base with about 250 people over the next week. So you'll probably get a phone call from me. So thanks again for joining us. Love everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you, Harb.